This month, we're going to talk about user adoption. So I'm going to give a couple of announcements, shout outs, some small intros, and then Kristen is going to tell us about the adventures of Tableau at OU Health, and Maxwell is going to follow up behind that with some adoption engagement strategies. And of course, at the end, we'll have the typical Q&A, networking, and showcase. So here we are, today's hosts. Myself, Sean Spencer. I am an analytics consultant for Interworks. What my job looks like every day is working in Tableau. So I connect with various clients and help turn their dreams and visions into Tableau dashboards. I've been working in the industry for about 7 or 8 years now. I like the tool. Kristen, do you want to do a quick intro?
Yeah, I'm Kristen Bivens. I'm a business intelligence developer with OU Health. I've been OU for about 2 years now. I've been in the BI space for about 4 years. I've been working with Tableau the whole time. I am one of our Tableau administrators here at OU Health. So maybe not so much on the dev side anymore, even though I can dev, but a lot more on the user adoption and processes and standards.
Perfect. And lastly, we have Maxwell, who was meant to be Michelle, but we got a last minute trade, which I think is advantageous.
Yeah, thank you. Hey guys, my name is Maxwell. I am a membership enablement lead at Interworks. So my goal is to make analytics practices self-sustaining, and I'm glad that we get to talk about that today. I've been in the BI space for about 4 to 5 years. I'm actually a chemical engineer by trade and decided to switch to the dark side and go into consulting. So it's been a fun journey. I have a really different background and see analytics in a different way, and I find a lot of joy out of helping people much like you guys, and excited to talk more about that a little later today.
Awesome. Thanks, Maxwell.
Yeah.
So like I said, Kristen will, the plan. Kristen's going to open up with how OU has grown over the years. Maxwell will expand on what he has seen be successful and what he recommends at other organizations. And then we'll close out with an open Q&A session. Things to think about. This slide looks exactly like it did last month, where I will pitch open office hours. Our friend Matt taking full advantage of that over the last few weeks. Been hanging out quite a bit, having a good time. So if you guys have Tableau questions, Tableau problems, Tableau opportunities, more than happy to schedule an hour or two on the calendar, 1 day, 2 days, multiple week project. I don't care. I'd love to hang out with you guys, help you build or find a solution to whatever your problem is. Of course, always looking for feedback. What would you guys like to hear about? We only have 2 more meetings planned after this one for the rest of the year. So if there's a topic that, if someone sends in a topic, I am more than happy to build out an entire Tableau user group and schedule it somewhere on the calendar. And if we want to start thinking about having an in-person event, if you have a big opinion or an idea for an in-person event, where that might be, where it might be fun or somewhere that you enjoy going, I think that I'm ready to host an in-person event if you guys are. So you just keep me posted. Dates to look forward to. So our next meeting will be in August, where our friend Kent will do his annual new features talk, and we'll get the latest and greatest updates from him. And then in October, we will tackle common problems in Tableau. I've run into a few of these this year. It's hard to remember sometimes, so that the purpose of that talk will largely be around the obnoxious things that we click on and how to avoid them. So with all that, I'm gonna stop my screen share and give it back to Kristen so she can tell us more.
Thank you. I'm trying to get reacquainted with where all my buttons are. There we go. Okay, like Sean said, hi, I'm here to talk to you today about increasing user adoption, specifically through the lens of OU Health, where I work, because that's what I know, is increasing our user adoption. So just to give a little bit of background, if you're not that familiar with OU Health as a company, it actually used to be two different enterprises. We have OU Medicine, and that's what you think about the hospitals. And then there was OU Physicians, and that was physicians clinics. But they recently had a merger last year on July 1st and became OU Health. So now OU Physicians is legally OU Health Partners, just FYI. So when you think OU Health, most people think of the Children's Hospital, but we also have an adult hospital. We have a hospital of Edmond, and we have I think it's 88 clinics, but don't quote me on that exact number. It's important to note this because OU Medicine, the hospital side, had their own Tableau server and environment, and OU Physicians had their own Tableau, and they kind of got a head start on us. So OU Physicians got theirs back in 2019, and I'll say from the things I've seen, they are a little more advanced than we are in a lot of ways, and we got ours in, I put start date August 2020, but that's incorrect. I'm pretty sure it's August 2019. But since I started with OU Medicine before we became OU Health a year ago, we're going to think about this first through the lens of OU Medicine and then through OU Health. Oh, and how we grew our engagement from tens of users to hundreds of users. I think that on our journey here at OU Health, with Tableau, we always feel like we're behind, like we're not doing it right. And I think a lot of companies feel that way, but honestly, we've grown a lot and we've matured a lot of our practices. So I'm excited to share them with you. So this one I wanted to include because Sean told me I have to have my animals in here, but it's just another example. I called a System United. That's my dog Spoons representing OU Medicine. That's my cat Knives representing OU Physicians. And together they make Cat Dog OU Health. I'm glad Maxwell's laughing. Okay. So let's talk about previous state. What did it look like? I joined in April 2020, so I like to call this the pre-Kristen era because it's centered around me. It really was the Wild Wild West. We had the director of BI and one BI employee, I think, basically standing up the entire OU Med thing. Maybe a few people in sysadmin were helping them out with the server side. And even though we had something like 11,000 employees in the enterprise, we only had, I don't know, a handful of dashboards, maybe 20 desktop licenses, and I was at maybe over 100 viewer licenses, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Engagement was really small. There were no standards and processes for anything, for end user communications. We did have some standards for dashboard design, but they were scary. It was just all OU red. It looked like a bloodbath. And frankly, I complained enough that my boss said, fine, Kristen, you're in charge of creating new standards if you keep calling these ugly. And I refer to it as kind of our infancy. So how did we take that to having hundreds of users now in a much more mature environment? We will get there after this slide. I almost forgot. Current state. We have over 200 plus server licenses with almost daily new requests. I saw 3 emails today for new viewer license requests. That's even just a rough estimate because we're currently integrating the old OU Physicians Tableau with our OU Medicine Tableau into one fully integrated server where you can reach everything from both sides of the business in one place. And OUP has a lot of users. They have a lot of dashboards that are still migrating over, and we have 550 licenses on deck that will probably get almost all used. And remember, that's coming from maybe 100 where only a few dozen of those people were actually engaging with the content. We have over 60 dashboards, 140 data sources. We have over 50 desktop licenses, and that's also a hot commodity. We keep having to re-up our bundles. We keep having to meet new demand. We keep having to tell people, I'm sorry, we don't have licenses for you because we've already ran out. And then on top of all of that, we're also growing an internal user community and resource center. So now we have standards and processes. We have ways for different areas of the business to interact with each other with Tableau. It's just really exciting. So one of the ways that we got here, and I want to talk about this, it's not going to happen at every company. We kind of had an opportunity. How did we go from having, I don't know, 6 months of Tableau where we have only a dozen or so people actually using and interacting, to being able to escalate and blow the scene up and create demand and create interest. COVID helped a lot. I know COVID's not going to help everyone, and I know it's not what's going to happen for you, but we had a COVID-19 dashboard that started to get used by upper leadership, started to get used by analysts in other areas, and it really created a buzz. Then on top of that, OU is making another journey where we're bringing on a new electronic health record system. It's called Epic. I don't know if you're familiar with Epic. If you're in the healthcare industry, you definitely are. And they had to beef up our BI team. That's when I was hired. We hired like 11 people, but again, being narcissistic, I think I was the only one that had Tableau experience of anyone that's hired, but that doesn't mean that we weren't trainable. So here we are, we have more resources, we have some buzz, like we needed to do something with that. How do we take that to the next level? I do want to say really quickly, you don't need to have a COVID dashboard in order to create that opportunity for buzz. Someone I work with named Bob, he calls them, oh, I can't remember. I think, ramp dashboards? No. Oh, I had it earlier. Maybe loading docks. No, on-ramps. He calls them on-ramps to the highway. Basically, think like high-level KPI executive dashboards. Work with your executives. This is my advice. Work with someone else in the company and find that dashboard that's going to be that gateway, that's going to create that demand, that thing that's just like really high-level, high value, where you want to put your bang for your buck in right in the beginning and get that buzz going. Just checking the chat, and I see that Matt put aggressively red. They were aggressively red dashboards. So how did we take this opportunity of having this buzz, of having a bigger team, and increase our user adoption for Tableau? We trained our team. We got really into branding. We created a community. We learned how to communicate with our end users, and we're not quite monitoring metrics yet, but that is our next stop, and I think it's a valuable thing to tell everyone. And we're going to go through each one of these steps. So, training the team. It's really important that all the team members in whatever core department that upholds Tableau for your company know how to use it. Here, because we have such a large company with tens of thousands of people, we like to think of ourselves as internal consultants. Sorry, InterWorks, we are also consultants. We should know how to use the tool. We should know how to troubleshoot access to the servers for people. We should be the ones helping others if they have a Tableau question. So it's really important to invest in that team. Even if Sean and I used to work together on a team of 4 people. Even if your team is 2 people or 4 people, like it's really important to take the time to properly train your employees. And that is an ongoing process because everyone has room to grow. Things are always changing. We're learning about new features next month. And you should think about it like anything else with dev work, where there are iterations and it can constantly be improved and get feedback from your employees on what's working and what's not. So for instance, when we started, we had a goal for every member of BI to get certified for Tableau Desktop Associate. And so we had everyone enroll in months and months of Tableau's online training tutorials. Guess what? Almost no one passed that test. Almost no one took the test. They hated the online Tableau tutorials. Sorry, Tableau, I'm sure they're great. We were in COVID, everything was online. No one could take it anymore. So we asked what worked and what didn't. We got stuff from Udemy. We made some of our own content. I did a training series with some of the team where we would just take 1 hour every week and I would go over something with them and then answer questions. So really, if it works, use it, have more iterations, always be flexible. And then once your team is trained, it's so important to be on brand. I put some of the key points here. Why is being on brand such a big deal for user adoption? Well, first, it looks professional. Am I an executive and I look at a dashboard and it doesn't have an OU stamp on it? It's these weird colors that have nothing to do with my business. I'm just losing trust right away. It's about buy-in, right? If you are selling a product, you want it to look professional. Like They don't know what's going on behind the scenes. Am I an executive? Am I a decentralized analyst? Am I a director of marketing? I have no idea that it's all duct tape and zip ties over in BI trying to stand up their Tableau environment. If I look at this dashboard and it looks like this polished, nice, well-branded thing that came from my company, I'm going to think that they have their stuff together. The second thing is that consistent end user experience. People like comfort. People don't want to be jarred. People want to know like how to use a dashboard. They want to know what to expect. And that comfort puts them in a space to absorb the data, absorb your product, keep exploring. And then a really big deal to me is I want my end users to use my visuals in their presentations or their materials. I'm a mid-level director. I have a big presentation. I got some data from Tableau that I want to tell my exec about, and I don't have a lot of time. I want to look good and I want to be on brand. How easy is it if I've filtered that dashboard and I take a screenshot and it fits right into my PowerPoint and it matches my branded PowerPoint, and now I look professional and polished, and that took me 2 seconds. Oh my goodness, now I love Tableau and I love the department that made Tableau, and I'm going to tell everyone else how easy this was. So how do you do that? Marketing's already done that job for you. Maybe your company's small and they haven't. Hopefully they have, and you have to do some of this yourself. But marketing already has logos. They already have color palettes. They already have a style guide. You might not even have to contact marketing for that style guide. Half the time it's on your company's website. When you scroll to the bottom, it'll be like, contact us, employees, media. Usually something that says media, you can click through that and they already have a style guide up with color palettes, fonts, all of that. So I shouted out to our marketing team and said, hey, can you send me a package of OU Health approved logos that would work in our dashboards? And can you send me all of our brand color palettes? Because we have different color palettes for, say, the Children's Hospital versus the Cancer Center. And then I took the preferences.tpf file that comes along with Tableau when you download desktop. I looked up the how-to document for how to change it online. And we put all of our OU Health color palettes into our own preferences file, and we distribute that to every person with a new desktop license, along with that package of the logos. So all they have to do when they go into color their dashboard is pick the right color palette, and all the OU Health stuff is already loaded for them. And it's super easy for them to be on brand. Quick shout out to our ugly red colors. Sometimes your brand, when you ask marketing, has colors you didn't even know about. We just have to tie in the red in certain places. We actually have a really relaxing, pretty teal that I love to use. We have navy. We have all sorts of things that don't make our dashboards look like a McDonald's. And that's great, because as much as I love OU and I'm born and bred, like, red is a hard color to put on everything. And just a quick example, this is from OU Health Style Guide, and I think that it's really funny. You can see how serious they are about brand identity, where we can't use OSU orange in anything. And one of my favorite things on here is no curved shapes utilizing blue. Who knew? Why? I don't know. Maybe it reminds them of Mercy. I'm not sure. I think it's funny, but you can tell marketing cares, and you should care. And then all of that is great, but how do you distribute this information? How do you make sure that devs are doing this? How do you make sure that if you have people using Tableau, like someone in finance buys a desktop license, and you want to make sure that the stuff that they create and goes up on the website is just as good as the stuff that you create and they have all those resources? You should create a community. I mean, I feel like it's not rocket science to know that if you want to increase user adoption and you want someone to use your product, like, you need to network, you need to be friendly, you need to give them resources. So we have quite a few decentralized analysts in our company. Actually, Matt Wellborn on our leadership team is one of them in supply chain. Hello, Matthew. And he's great. So what we did to help increase that community with our decentralized analyst is we created Teams channel, maybe use Slack or something else, or we also have an internal website called The Hub where we can put things. But I love the Teams channel because I already work in it every day. So we have the Tableau community Teams channel. it has that chat. So let's say that Matt has a question about using parameters with his color marks card. Well, he doesn't necessarily have to hit up BI. He can throw it in that community teams chat, and maybe someone from finance already knows how to do it. Oh, Matt's never talked to this person in finance before. All of a sudden, they're learning from each other and creating their own network. And that really helps to build that adoption. And then on top of that, we also put all of those branding materials we talked about, tutorials, links to cool tips and tricks, and all that good stuff in that Teams channel. So they have a place to collaborate, but also they know where to go for things, right? Because how often when you work in a company, you're like, oh, I think Sheila in marketing has that. Or maybe you could contact Kristen and she's pointing you somewhere, but it's nice to just know, like, I can go here and find anything I need, or reach out to someone who will know, and I have the entire community at my fingertips. Another practice we started standing up is what we call Tableau admin office hours. So once a week, we have an hourly meeting that's optional. And I invite everyone who has a desktop license or everyone who has an Online Explorer license. And they can just come and ask questions. A lot of people just hang out to see what other questions people have. It's really great because not only is it a place to help, but we also learn a lot about other teams. One day, no one showed up except for someone that just got a desktop license from the quality team. They didn't really know Tableau that well. I showed them around some stuff, but then I used the rest of the time just to ask them, like, what's your department structure like? Who's your boss? What do you do over there? Like, and just learn about the team, and creating that sense of community really helps, right? Like, you get those good feelings going. It's easier to collaborate. It's easier to reach out. One call out I did not put on here, we had a series for a long time called Analytics Spotlight, and we're going to start it up again soon, but I think with a different name. And what we would do is one person would show off something they made. So Sriya, who I think is on the call, would show off this new dashboard she made, and also the data source for it. And she would show analytical leaders from across the company, like how they can come and interact with that data source and how they can interact with that dashboard and what kind of data is available. And we found that people loved them, and we record them and we put the Zooms out for people to watch later if they couldn't make the meeting. And then on to communicating. You want your end users to feel safe. You want to communicate with them. What are you communicating? All sorts of stuff. Our servers go down. That happens sometimes because we host our own and we run into problems. Data isn't refreshing because maybe there's some weird refresh happening in our data warehouse, and the data engineers have told me that the data's behind and I need to tell end users. It really helps to just go ahead and have a communications plan. So we're talking about building templates of how you talk to them and keeping that on brand as well. I'm going to show an example real quick. And it's so easy. So our IT team uses this template of this when, what this means, how it will impact you, and this little red OU thing up here above. So we just stole that, copy and paste it into a Word document or a saved message with some basic text put in here that you're going to use. And now whoever's running Tableau that week with admin, if it's you, if it's someone else, it's always consistent. That goes back to looking professional and being professional and making people trust that you know what's going on, you have their backs, the servers are up, everything is well maintained, right? Because if the server goes down or data's stale and then people are having to reach out to you about it, they don't know who to talk to, they don't know what's going on, they're really not going to be stoked about interacting with your product. They're probably going to write it off, and they're probably going to tell someone in the next department to write it off. When we send emails, we have a lot of end users. Just FYI, we do have the server management add-on, and we've activated our, Sean, PostgreSQL. How do you pronounce this word?
You nailed it. That's perfect.
Nailed it. We use that database. We run a flow right now to pull those user emails out in a format that we can just pop into Outlook. Now, your server's down. You can't access that email list. You can't run that flow, or maybe that's not the best way to do it. We're actually working toward a new solution where we're going to have it hooked up in Snowflake with our data engineers, so that we'll just have tables of our user emails in Snowflake that we can pop down and send out those quick, easy communications to them. And they appreciate it. They like being in the loop. And then finally, monitor your metrics. So you've increased engagement. You've sent out communications. You have beautiful branded things. That's great. How do you know? And how do you know what your goals are? And how do you communicate them to upper leadership so that they know that you're doing your job? You should make KPIs, right? I don't know. I assume just about everyone in here, if they use Tableau, work in a space where they've heard the term KPI, key performance indicator, or have talked about metrics before. They're going to be different for different companies for Tableau, right? So is your performance goal to get more users? Is it to have more or less content? Sometimes it's less content. For instance, maybe I don't want to have 20 dashboards that are basically the same thing, but with slight variations out there. So maybe more dashboards is not a good thing. Maybe I've created a beautifully curated data source that people can go in with Explorer license and make their own things or pivot around or answer their own questions. So I don't have to have 10 dashboards that answer different things, because I've done a great job of creating user engagement and data literacy. And all I need is that one data source, and it gets rid of things. Or is it count of use? Is it traffic to your data sources, traffic to your dashboards? So you should come up with what feels right for your company and then actually make those things and track them. But how do you do that? You can download your server site status data. Oh, you can track it on the server if you're an admin. Actually, Sean, did you want to take over this part? We talked about you showing
Yeah,
they can do this.
I didn't do it. So sorry, but yeah, so I was going to have like a quick 1-minute tutorial on how you could go into, if you do have permissions on your local Tableau server, you can go in and download the activity of all of your users. There are some views pre-made on the Tableau server for you to look at, but they aren't particularly great. And oftentimes I find myself just making my own that are tailored to the specific metric that I'm trying to track. Especially if you tie your users into your Active Directory. So an example of what I've done recently was tracking the engagement of specific users at a large organization. So there's a group of managers, and we wanted to know how frequently they were using things. And so I was able to map their names back to their user IDs, and then measure how frequently they were using which reports to identify, like, hey, where should we focus our efforts in improving the experience for users? It's like 5 clicks. I've talked a lot and taken some of the time, but really it's quite a simple thing to do. So if anyone's interested in that, I can give you a walkthrough sometime after this.
Thank you, Sean. No, I think that was a good amount of talking. I think you explained it better than I would have, because I would have just blown right through that. If you are like us and you have the Tableau Server Management add-on and you have the PostgreSQL database, we also use that, because you can go into Tableau Desktop or Tableau Prep or on the server and make all sorts of crazy views for your metrics and track things and make email user lists. I'm not trying to give you a pitch for it, but it's great. I like it. I'm glad we have it. I'm clicking this, but it's not changing. There we go.
Uh-oh.
Got it. So what is next for OU Health Tableau? At the end of July, we're hoping to go fully live, or we will go live with our fully integrated Tableau environment. I saw something in the chat where someone asked about the letters. Oh, KPI, key performance indicator. Thank you, Kimberly. No, something else. I'll have to ask about that in a second. But what do the letters mean? That's what it was. OUH is OU Health. OUM is OU Medicine. OUP is OU Physicians. It's very confusing. I get confused all the time. I don't know where I am. I just call it OU Health and call it a day. But that OUM plus OUP equals OUH. Again, we're getting that fully integrated Tableau environment.
I'm getting dizzy.
I know.
Just listening. There's so many O's and U's.
You should try working here.
No.
Everything's an acronym in healthcare. Quick side, no, I'm not gonna tell that story because I want Maxwell to be able to talk, but, and then what's next? We're gonna do a roadmap development. We're really excited about this. So once we have this new environment stabilized, we're just gonna continue to optimize our Tableau. We're gonna make some of those KPIs we talked about. We're gonna create a nice little plan. We've been working with our IT help desk to have better intake forms, like when people have access issues or they wanna get a report or like a dashboard made. And we're gonna have more of those iterations we talked about resources for our developers and the company standards and our training. And we also kind of talked about before how we're gonna bring back that analytics spotlight series where we spotlight a different product from Tableau each week, or maybe something else from analytics in the company. Because data literacy is a high tide rises all boats. So we want all the analytics to succeed, which is on the slide, but also for OU Health, we're about to stand up more data governance and data literacy policies. We're also going to go more toward the cloud. We're going to get Snowflake and create a data lake and hook that up to Tableau. So really just pushing forward your analytics maturity for your company in general will help that Tableau user engagement, or hopefully it will if you're using a lot of these strategies. And now I'm going to check the chat. It looks like all of my OU Health friends have helped this person. Oh, how many servers nodes do you have? Do you have a disaster recovery server, set of servers? Are your servers on-prem or in the cloud? These are great questions. Our servers are on-prem. We maintain them ourselves. They're on-prem somewhere. I don't think they're in a cloud. Yeah, they're on-prem. We just moved one. We have two. We have a development server and a production server. So really we do have a disaster recovery server because that's the development server. And how many nodes do we have? If Dylan's still on is able to think, I'm not sure how many nodes we have on the new production server. Singular. I thought we had multiple. So two servers, singular node, dev acts as our backup and they are on-prem. We're kind of a unique company because Tableau doesn't do our server management for us, we do, but it's healthcare and we got to do everything ourselves. It's got to be really complicated and there's got to be a lot of firewalls and all I'm allowed to show you is high level information. So that leaves Maxwell with not as much time as I wanted to leave him. Thank you for letting me just talk at you for 20 minutes. I'll give it a few more seconds to see if another thing pops in the chat. Oh, Dylan's just giving more info. So if you have questions, Dylan will answer them in the chat for you.
Way to sign Dylan up for work.
He loves it. Shaking his head. Sorry, Dylan. Okay, Maxwell, your turn.
Well, I'm glad that you went before me because it was really nice to see the history and what's been going on at OU Health and to look at one client specifically because this is a user group. So there's quite a few different people that are on here. And for myself, my goal is to talk to a client much like yourself and listen to the history. What's happened, what has worked, what hasn't worked, and how can we ensure that you guys are going to be successful? So, Christine, thank you for now passing the baton to me. And I want to talk about kind of my history with clients and what I've found kind of the key to success is. At InterWorks, I've had a few different roles. I've been an analytics consultant, I've been an enablement consultant, and now I help lead enablement across the company. And we found that there's a lot of success in empowering people and ensuring that they know how to use analytics correctly, because then the analytics practice is going to become self-sustaining. And that's that enablement piece. Where does that start? There's a few different components that I think are really important to identify in the beginning. And I need to actually click on my screen to make this go. There we go. It looks like we have these little actions. So people, process, and platform. I think that people is the most important thing overall. Who are your users? Are you just working with a lot of creators? Do we have viewers? Do we have explorers? I want to figure out what the community looks like initially. Is this a net new client? Meaning they've just deployed Tableau, what's next? Or we've been using Tableau for 10 years. We've been using the e-learning or maybe YouTube University to figure things out, hacking our way along, and maybe things haven't worked. We also need to set up processes, systems, content development. We need to look at governance, some of those different things that was mentioned before. And also the platform itself, the infrastructure. How many servers do we have? We have some great questions that were in the chat. Our data strategy, do we have a data team, those data curators, or is it on our creators to go through and start making their own sources and publishing that to server? So there's a lot of components that go into thinking about how are we going to ensure that users know how to use this and they're going to be able to adopt it easily. The main part of this is the people. That's what I think all of this is centered around. There's kind of two parts to it. And I'm glad that Kristen, you were talking about kind of a COE at OU Health. That's really important, creating some kind of community to where people know they can go and ask questions and find out information. That is one of the key things that I start with any client. I say, who's going to be your Tableau leader? Now, from that Tableau leader, they can't answer all the questions. We're going to need people to assist with that. How are we then going to find maybe our power users to start enabling them to help us along? There's a few things that can help sustain a data culture, such as training in office hours. We want to send a lot of our employees through formalized workshops to teach them about how to build calculated fields, create parameters, build these efficient dashboards that people are going to be able to use. But we all know that there's going to be issues. People are going to need help. This is where we need to offer office hours. Maybe it's where they can send in a request to a Yammer or a Slack messaging board to ask questions to the community. Another great one is community events, much like this. A lot of clients miss out on having a COE on site because people don't want to take time out of their day to spend 30 minutes or an hour to have a discussion about this. What are the new updates in Tableau? What's going on? But I think that's so important. Being able to tell people, hey, we published 3 new data sources, 3 new trusted sources to the server today. These are the new ones that you should be using. That way, people are going to know the most up-to-date information, and they're going to be able to start building those meaningful views that people are going to use. It's also important to try and track that adoption as well. Sean and both Kristen were mentioning that Postgres data. That is a great way to look at, are these dashboards that I've spent 8 hours building actually useful to anyone? If not, then what was the point of it? Was it because of the design of the dashboard? Is it because maybe it's too slow and no one wants to use it? Or maybe I just haven't shared it to the audience and no one knows that this new dashboard is out there. Those are the things, those are the questions that people are going to have. And we need to have events much like this to talk about it, to tell people where to go and try and increase the overall joy and usage of Tableau. Now, there's a few key things. We always need to think about the who, what, when, why, and how. You know, those key statements right there. And there's going to be a lot of discussion prompts of, you know, who's going to be a member of a COE? What does the current analytics community look like? What are the skills of our users? There's a lot of things that need to be asked. And I know that there's a lot of information on this screen, but what's important is to ask the hard questions and set goals. You're not going to have a perfectly running analytics practice right away. If you did, I want to know your secret because I could use that every single day in my business. But we need to set some kind of blueprint or timeline of where can we start reaching some of these goals. Who's our Tableau leader? Who's going to be that champion that is helping me get there? And asking important questions like this is going to really help encourage that adoption, and show the visibility to other users. I don't know why this is not clicking. Sorry, there we go. Whenever we think about COE that I've been mentioning before, the Center of Excellence, what does that entail? So we're wanting to bring the analytics community together and start discussing what they need. Now, that analytics community takes a lot of different people. One, we need the sponsors of who's giving us the money to use Tableau in the first place. That might be the business sponsor right here. We need to ensure that they're excited and then they know that they're spending money in the right place. We also need to ensure that IT's here. We know that we can connect to the data, that the framework's ready, etc. We need our subject matter experts. I'm definitely not the expert in everything, and I want to ensure that I have those people on board and ready to go to start building those meaningful views. We also need designers. We need those creators and trying to find all those functional champions. A center of excellence takes a village. It's not just one person to start creating this Tableau group to ensure that you're successful. Now, from finding all these people to come to sit around one conference table, this was before COVID, from there, then we need to think about what all is going to go into this to create some kind of meaningful view. These are the questions that I start asking a lot of people, meaning, who's our personas? Who's our audience that we're pushing this out to? Are these our executives? Most likely they're going to be just users or viewers, I'm sorry. If they're a viewer, do they know how to log into Tableau server and navigate the different dashboards that I've published? I don't know. Has someone created a workshop to actually teach them that? If not, then maybe we need to start doing that. Maybe then we think about business and data consumers. Are we maybe sending out subscriptions to say, hey, look at this report at the start of every single Monday, etc. We also want to think about self-service, explorers. Maybe they're looking at a dashboard and they're trying to create ad hoc queries off of those or their own dashboards. Maybe this shows us that our current analytics are falling short and not answering the questions that they need. We also need our creators. These are going to be the people that are going to own the end-to-end analytics journey. They're going to be curating the data themselves, bringing this into desktop, creating the meaningful visualizations, maybe noticing that the data sucks and that they need to use a data cleaning tool like Tableau Prep or Ultrex to then push this out to the other end users to gain those insights. So there's a lot of different components that are going into these analytics to, again, encourage that usage, the engagement of those views. I don't know if you guys have had this feeling. I certainly have. I've created a view, I've pushed it to server, and then I noticed that no one has used it. And I'm thinking, why is that? And again, maybe it's because I didn't announce that this view's out here. Maybe the view is confusing. I didn't use those best design techniques. This is where I need help of other users in the community, those pro users that are going to help me elevate my view to ensure that I'm reaching everyone that I need to. A lot of times I spend my time creating what is called an enablement plan. And whenever we're thinking about creating that self-sustaining analytics practice, I have to ensure that I'm giving people access to knowledge. And I spend a lot of time thinking, okay, each quarter, what are things that I could give to the users that are going to help elevate them? Maybe it's a user group meeting much like this, to where we're going through and talking about new updates. Possibly it's an official Tableau training. Maybe it's an InterWorks training, or it is e-learning or something. But at least giving people information to go to and learn more about. It's also really important to think about data. Do we need a workshop around it? Do we purely just get our data from IT and we just need to know which sources are trusted? Also holding office hours. I think at OU Health, holding that every single week, wow, that's a lot. I commend you for that. That's awesome. But people don't always have the time for that. At least holding office hours once a month to allow people to ask questions, especially for those new users, because they're going to need help. And the bottom part of this right here is so important, the community. As I mentioned, we need to create that center of excellence, maybe even a SharePoint site to tell people where all these resources are listed. Meaning, here's the most current dashboards that we have. Here is where you can sign up for training, or where the Yammer channel is. Some other cool things that you can do to really help improve engagement is Viz competitions. At the Tableau conference, they have the Iron Viz. A lot of clients do ones personally on site. And I think that those are really cool. People then get to have an opportunity to show off their skills to other users to say, yeah, I'm this power user and look at this awesome dashboard that I built. I think that that's a great way to, one, identify power users that you might not have known, or push out a data set that you want them to build it off of and gain and find some really cool insights from those Viz competition dashboards. Again, I mentioned that people is the most important thing, and I think that's the reason that a lot of us are here today. And you're going to have to create a roadmap for it. Where do we start? We start with figuring out, typically for me, someone's giving me a call, it's the Tableau admin saying, hey, we just got Tableau, what's next? We have to think about what are the different pathways per role. We need to identify these analytic leaders to start forming our lines of business with Tableau. Clarify the roles and then launch it. We then want to create some kind of short-term goal of finding some ambassadors of the tool itself. Kick off some training, some office hours. Think about creating that resource site for people to find all the information that they might need about your specific community. Long term, you're wanting to find those Tableau champions that are going to help keep on pushing the needle. Ongoing trainings, continue to run the user group for you, mentoring new employees, and hosting all those events. This is the way that you're going to be able to create a successful roadmap so then everyone can be successful at the end of the day. And I think, again, whenever you think about analytics, it starts with what is the people that are going to help build this and make it successful overall with whatever team you're working with. I see a lot of questions here. That is actually all that I have. So I do want to open this up to some questions, maybe about my items or even Kristen's as well. And I'm going to look at the chat as on top of this too.
It was just a bunch of Kim complimenting me, so.
Ooh, I love
unless
that.
you got direct messages.
Kim's a super fan, Kristen.
I know.
She is.
Super fan, big time, big fan.
Thanks for the deep dive, Maxwell. This is super good.
Yeah, you're welcome. No, it's fun to talk to a user group because for me, I'm behind the scenes creating all these different plans for maybe a health organization. It could be a, I don't know, like Netflix or some other random client like that. Who knows?
Yeah. You know, my only experience helping out in the enablement realm would be doing exactly this. So one time Tableau reached out to me and asked if I would help prop up an internal user group at one of their clients. And yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that echoes a lot with the story that Kristen was saying and a lot of the points that you were telling on is just getting something on the calendar for their users to meet regularly and discuss.
Yeah, no, that's the most important thing. And it's trying to ensure that it's consistent. People know what to expect and that they can start building those questions as well. Because whenever it becomes stale, we've had some clients, there's one here in Chicago that I've managed for quite a few years, and they had one of the best user groups. COVID happened and they stopped meeting and they stopped having them virtually. And coming 2 years later, we've tried to start it again. And a user group that used to have easily 100 plus people every single month has now been 3.
Oof.
And it's, again, you have to start that traction, even though it might be really slow and hard at first. Just keep on doing it, and then finally it will grow. And I think even now with us still being kind of in the virtual world, it can be difficult because we all have that Zoom fatigue, and you have to find something exciting to meet about. Like say, hey, we have a new data source, or here's a new dashboard that I can show. Give them a reason to join the call. Don't just say, we might talk about XYZ.
Yeah,
So
that's a good note for me for this user
tip for you
group.
guys. Yeah.
I'm gonna try some more exciting topics, perhaps, and pepper them in.
I support that.
Cool. Well, if anyone has any other questions, feel free to interrupt, or if anyone wants to share what they're working on, or if they've built something cool recently,
Actually,
feel free to.
if you don't mind, I wanted to share something else that I think helped with OU's engagement. And it was something the lady that was kind of driving it left, but we did a data literacy pairing and had not only Tableau users, but then also just kind of some of our decentralized people who were labeled as data people, even within departments across the organization, come in and present ways that they were using data, even if it wasn't Tableau, in their presentations. And so it really created, and then they would start coming back to some of the other meetings and seeing some of the Tableau presentations. I thought it really drove engagement, interest, and also gave everybody kind of this crossways insight into other parts of our business that are so separate from anything that they normally see, that it gave them some just really, I think, nice collegial understanding and insight to business partners that we work with. So that was super helpful from my perspective. And it kind of did a dual thing where it was moving Tableau and it was also helping just inform and educate within our company. So that's all.
Thanks for sharing, Kim.
Yeah, I like that comment too. And I think a lot of people will find that it's relatable, especially even though it's not like a Tableau data source, they understand the business enough that they can talk about it and they know those different insights. And people love whenever that's displayed.
Well, yeah, that kind of rounds out the content list. I'm going to keep the call going until a little bit after 5. If you want to hang out, talk about Tableau stuff, feel free to jump in at any time. But outside of that, that kind of closes out the day.